Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started, and people will join us as they are able. Good afternoon, South San Francisco community. I'm Dr. Shantara Moore, superintendent of this amazing district, and I want to thank you so very much for being here today. Y lo siento porque yo solo hablo un poquito español.
Buenas tardes. Soy la doctora Shantara Moore, superintendente de este increíble distrito, y quiero agradecerles mucho por estar aquí hoy.
Before we begin, we will be recording this meeting, so those who cannot attend will be able to watch it later.
Antes de comenzar, grabaremos esta reunión para que aquellos que no pueden asistir puedan verla más tarde.
If you need to listen to the presentation in Spanish, you will need to click on the interpretation button and select the Spanish language.
Si necesita escuchar la presentación en español, deberá hacer clic en el botón de interpretación y seleccionar idioma español.
We will also live stream this presentation to our YouTube channel, which you can locate from the homepage of the district website.
También transmitiremos en vivo esta transmisión en vivo a nuestro canal de YouTube, Sitio Web del Distrito.
Next slide, please, and thank you. On the welcome and introductions. Thank you so much. So today we are going to share information that outlines various challenges and opportunities as it relates to our facilities across South San Francisco Unified School District. Again, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to show up today. We anticipate and know that throughout the presentation, you will likely have questions, so feel free to use the Q&A feature, and we will do our best to respond to questions that way, but we will also collect all of the questions and add it to our frequently asked questions page, which is located on our School Improvement Bond Measure page, which you can find the link on the homepage of our district website. At this time, I'd like to introduce my colleagues who will also be presenting this evening. Mr. O, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Chaudhary, who is the Director of Facilities and Safety, and Mr. Savage, who is a consultant from K-12 School Facilities. Next slide, please. So we know that South San Francisco Unified is a diverse district, which includes students from various countries, students who may have disabilities, gifted students, students who come with different experiences, backgrounds, perspectives, religions, home lives. We also know that we have students who learn and engage in myriad ways. And so in our district, we strive to engage in equitable practices and have equitable systems across the district, and this includes our facilities. The board has worked really hard to define educational equity, giving students what they need when they need it to fulfill their potential. And we recognize in this pursuit of educational equity, students also need to access different educational tools and apps. They need access to flexible seating that suits their comfort. They need various instructional strategies from which to learn. And they need facilities that are not only clean and safe, which are critical, but that can also be used in flexible and innovative ways with various technologies, or the way that the classroom is designed, with the furniture that we're providing, the types of lighting and airflow. So having facilities that are flexible truly enables our students to have access to what they need when they need it, and that will assist in boosting their overall engagement in our schools. This bond, if passed, will allow us to thoughtfully design both facilities and classroom spaces that enhance the schooling experience for all students. Next slide, please. And of course, we are grateful for the high quality instructional program we have, our tremendous and committed teachers and staff who nurture our students socially and emotionally. And we recognize that high achieving schools do improve the quality of life in our community. And there is an interplay of high quality facilities, school climate that needs to be fostered, and student achievement. And we really strive to provide the necessary facility enhancements so that our students can be proud to attend our schools and can have access not only to high quality instruction, but high quality facilities. Our Board of Trustees also have worked hard as part of their goal to ensure that all students thrive And one of their goals indicates that we want to provide our students with facilities that will ensure an environment for successful teaching and learning, because we know that our students' lives can be positively impacted by providing them with engaging learning environments and access to opportunities where there's seamless and efficient infrastructure, well-spaced and well-furnished and well-lit classrooms, all of which influence student learning and achievement. Next slide, please. So you can see here, this is the makeup of our school district, which was established in 1936. We have 9 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 2 comprehensive high schools, 1 continuation high school, an adult education school, and 2 preschool programs, all representing over 8,000 students. And at this time, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Mr. Chaudhary, our Director of Facilities and Safety.
Well, thank you, Dr. Moore. Hello, everyone. This is Wazi Chaudhary. I'm the Director of Facilities and Safety for the district. I've been here for about a year now, and I'm here to kind of convey to all of you the state of our facilities at this time, for which we are trying to garner some help from our community. Most of our schools, they were built in the mid-century, and they all need upgrades. Some of the structures even included pre-engineered buildings and utility system, and essentially their useful lives are almost expiring. And we have in this picture, as you can see in the slide, that Martin building was built in 1921, so it's over 100 years old. And this particular building, including the administration and the gymnasium, are unfortunately some of the buildings that we have not been able to invest time and monies to upgrade these. Similarly, Los Cerritos School, originally built in 1948, Spruce 1934 and 57, Junipero Serra in 1970. So you get the drift. I mean, we are dealing with a lot of aging buildings that really need assistance, need upgrades. Almost 60 to 70% of the footprint of our sites have had little upgrades, if any, and really need modernization. Next slide, please. So a good evidence of the aging infrastructure was seen over the last year's winter storm when we had a lot of flooding. This is an example of where our utilities were overburdened and were not able to handle what was dealt with. Part of it is, of course, the climate change, where we're getting more intense rainfall, and then we have periods of drought. And our sites, utilities, which were also originally built in the mid-century, are not ready to even cope with that. So we really need to not just improve our buildings to provide rooms and classrooms for our children to experience learning in the 21st century, we also need to upgrade utilities. We need more robust electrical and gas lines, water systems that include domestic water line and fire water line, which is becoming more and more frequent these days. Our sewer lines, which include storm lines and sanitary sewer, our pavements, all of these need upgrades and improvements. Next slide, please. So education has changed a lot now. We have a lot of other options of educating our kids. We're looking at a variety of ways in teaching, like group learning, individualized support, project-based learning. And of course, we have experienced some of the virtual learning over the COVID period. So we need to have the technology and the environment for our children to be able to learn in different circumstances and different environments. Our classrooms were not designed to deal with those kind of, alternative kind of teaching modes. And with the environment itself, climate change, we have to have better environment for our kids to learn, and we need them to be competitive. And it will be our failing if we don't provide them with that. Many of our older buildings don't have, for example, outlets to support a flexible seating. And if we need that, we just have to do a lot more. Can we go to the next slide, please? The heating and ventilation and air conditioning is becoming more and more important by the day. And the COVID has been a period of that we experienced with the COVID has been a good example, a learning experience for all of us. And we cannot overemphasize the heating and ventilation because our mechanical systems now need a lot of upgrades to deal with the variety of environmental situation that we are faced to. We can have days of fire somewhere. We need to adapt our air conditioning system to deal with that. We need proper airflows. So climate change has brought forth many changes we're not prepared for, and we need to modify both our building envelopes and as well as our source of energy. The carbon-based fuel, for instance, we're trying to wean out of, and we're going more and more towards electrical. And we try to approach these with the resources we have, but we really need some financial help to address these issues. Could we go to the next slide, please? So this item in the slide is now paramount in our thoughts. The times have changed and security has posed to be one of the greatest challenges of our time. The schools essentially are what defines a neighborhood, and schools are what influences the property values of a neighborhood. The whole community has an interest to have schools where people and students, staff, and people feel safe and secure. We don't want our campuses to be closed off from the rest of the communities, but at the same time, we need to make sure our students, staff, everybody is safe in it. So we need to look at several ways to ensure safety, and that will need to be applied on a case-by-case basis. It could be a combination of various approaches like video surveillance, fencing where appropriate, building envelope treatments, but all of these need resources. So we're studying and learning on how the various districts and agencies are dealing with these issues. We have more in-depth information that you can find about safety and security that we're discussing on our FAQs. So what you see is can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, this is a view of Los Cerritos. It's a campus that was not addressed in the last bond, along with Sunshine Gardens. We are proposing, if we happen to be fortunate enough with the bond, we are proposing bigger improvements to these campuses as part of a new bond, just to be equitable amongst all our schools. We want to give all of our students equal chances to succeed. And we cannot leave some of the schools behind. And we need help on those too, the resources. Next slide, please. To help create well-rounded individuals, our schools need to provide amenities for our children to develop healthy bodies and minds. Among all of our aging facilities, high school gymnasiums and auditoriums are far from being adequate for student needs. We need to provide upgrades on audiovisual offerings. Locker rooms in gymnasiums need to be repaired and or upgraded. And most of all, auditoriums have to be brought forth for performance fitting this century. And while we strive to keep them in a usable state, our students deserve quality PE athletic facilities as well as performance venues. And where we can also accommodate larger audiences than we are able to do today. And that is another compelling reason to solicit help from our community to be able to realize this for the well-being of our children and our staff and our community. I'll hand over the presentation now to Mr. O, Assistant Superintendent for Business Services.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. Yeah, my name is Ted O. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services here at South San Francisco Unified School District. So let me start on for this slide first. So one of the challenges facing most school districts in the Bay Area is the high cost of living. You know, we all know that. And this is forcing many of our excellent staff to relocate out of the Bay Area, which really hurts our district because it takes a lot of time as well as resources to hire new staff and to get them up to speed. That's why our board of trustees has made workforce housing one of the district's top priorities for 2022-23. Having affordable housing for our teachers and staff will help the district to recruit and retain our staff. Luckily for South San Francisco Unified School District, we already have a property that could be used for built workforce housing on. And this is our Fox Street site. Our board and district staff looked at this prior to the pandemic, but had to hold off due to a lack of funding and also the need to tackle the pandemic first. Mr. Savage will be providing more information about this site later on in the presentation. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, as a school district, we have a responsibility to provide a quality learning environment with safe and adequate school facilities for our students and staff. Over time, schools will age, so significant investments into the facility is required in order to preserve the facility and provide a suitable learning environment for our students, as well as our good working environment for the staff. The district hired Eric Hart and Associates to provide a facilities master plan, and they worked with departments and school sites in the district on this important document. A lot of work went into preparing the facilities master plan. This is a essential element of the district planning process. It provides staff with information regarding current and future needs for student housing, quality of existing facilities, and facilities renovation and expansion requirements, and needs to support the district's educational and programmatic goals. A master plan also assists the districts in identifying funding sources for capital improvement and developing financing options. Basically, how we can pay for all this. So this living document will be a roadmap for renovating existing facilities, improving safety and security at the schools, creating outdoor learning environments for our students. And this is very important during the COVID times, and introducing new technologies in a context of resource sustainability. Okay, next slide, please. So at the June 23rd board meeting, Eric Hall and Associates made a presentation to the board on the facility master plan. The district's total facility needs exceeded $850 million. This is due to our aging facilities, as Mr. Chowdhury was mentioning, and deteriorating site infrastructure. There are insufficient funds from the state to help the school district with this facility needs. In addition, one bond alone cannot address all the facility needs of a district. Normally, school district pass a bond every 5 to 7 years to address their facility needs. Our last bond was passed close to 11 years ago. You can see why we have so many facility needs in this district. Next slide, please. So this slide breaks down the totals, the needs / costs down into 6 categories, including estimated amounts. So total for elementary school is about 201.7 million. Middle school is about 146.4 million. High school is about 311.9 million. Then we have other sites, which are also listed on the slide. It's about 71.4 million. Then we have a closed sites where we lease out the sites is about 59.3 million. And then there's also district-wide need, which is about 136.5 million. And you could check out the facility master plan presentation in the district's website. Next slide, please. So school districts are limited in funding options when it comes to improving and repairing classrooms and facilities. The funding source of the district are insufficient to address all of its facility needs. An option for district is to address this huge facility needs by using local funding sources, which is a local general obligation bond. That's why our board of trustees has placed Measure T, a local school improvement bond measure, on the November 2022 ballot. It could generate up to 436 million to repair and improve our schools. To be approved, a bond measure requires yes votes from 55% of the votes cast on the ballot. I'll go over more on the impact to taxpayers in the coming slides. Next slide, please. So this slide shows some of the things Measure T will address. If approved by 55% of local voters, funding from Measure T would repair or replace the district's deteriorating plumbing and sewer systems and leaky roofs, equip schools with 21st century learning technology. You also modernize classrooms, restrooms, and school facilities. And then upgrade inadequate electrical system and replace heating and ventilation systems, which is especially important during the COVID times. Construct or renovate performing arts center, construct local affordable rental housing for teachers and staff, which I mentioned earlier. And lastly, because school safety is our top priority, make health, safety, and security improvement, which includes building security, fencing, additional security cameras, point of access entry, control access, additional security cameras, fire alarm systems, and so on. Next slide, please. So there seems to be some confusion on the amount the taxpayers pay on the bond. And this has to do with the assessed value versus the market value. So property owners pay on the bond based on assessed value of the property and not the market value, which has been basically how much is the home worth. That's the market value. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this slide, we have provided examples of how this proposed bond measure will impact you. So many of the single family homes, about 52% of them, were purchased many years ago. So their assessed value is under $500,000, but they might be worth a lot more now, maybe over $1 million. So let's go over an example. So maybe the third row, from the top. Let's say you're a property owner and your home is worth $1 million. Okay, or it could be more than that. You actually just sell it. So that's your market value. However, you purchased your home maybe 10 years ago, and the home assessed value is $500,000. So that's what you pay property tax on. You would only pay $300 a year or $25 a month for this bond measure based on the $500,000. So how can you pay for this? So I just provided just a sample so you can see you relate to that. You're a regular Starbucks customer and purchase a cafe tall latte every morning before you go start your day. This will cost you about $3 per day. And if you were to forego about 8 of them per month, you will be able to use the funds to pay for this bond. So just an example. So hopefully that helps clarify. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a great slide. It shows you a comparison of school districts in San Mateo County and what their bond tax rates are. You can see that taxpayers in South San Francisco have the lowest bond tax rate in all of San Mateo County. And that's to the far right there. One of the reasons is due to no bonds passed in South San Francisco for so many years, which is why our district has over $850 million of facility needs. Another reason is because we are a unified school district with grades K-12. Unlike most of the school districts in San Mateo County, which are either elementary school district in yellow there or the high school district in orange there, taxpayers in South San Francisco only pay for a bond for one school district, while the taxpayers in the other cities pay bonds from 2 school districts. So that's another reason why ours is low. Next slide, please. Okay, our 2006 refunding bond will be completely repaid next year. So this will lower the tax rates for taxpayers. So that makes it a perfect time to put another bond on the ballot. This means that only the last bond, Measure J, remains to be paid. Actually, speaking of Measure J, earlier this year, the district also took advantage of the lower interest rates that were near all-time lows due to the COVID pandemic and economic uncertainty early in the year to refinance the bond, which had a much higher interest rate. So this is similar to refinancing a home mortgage by paying off existing debt, borrow funds at a lower interest rate. And this transaction actually saved the district property owners more than $3.6 million in taxes over the next 18 years. It was a lot of work for staff and not something that was required staff to do, but we felt that we had to do this and take advantage of the opportunity, as good stewards of our community's resources. Next slide, please. So now let's look at the fiscal accountability of the fund. This is very important. Is that all the funds generated from Measure T would stay local to support South San Francisco schools. The state would not be able to take away any of these funds. And then by law, no funds from Measure T may be used for operating expenses. And the state, including administrator salaries and their benefits. The bond measure also requires citizens' oversight, independent audits, and a detailed project list to ensure funds are spent properly. And then the makeup of the independent citizens oversight committee would be made up of senior citizens, parents, business owners, and the community at large, whose responsibility is to ensure that the bond funds are spent properly and reviews financial reports and also reports out annually on the expenditures in that year. So next we'll have Mr. Savage will be going over some of the site profiles from the facilities master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O, and good evening, everyone, community members, and thanks for sharing your Friday evening to talk about school facilities, my favorite topic. I'm a facilities consultant and been working at the district for the last 6 years. The slide that you see here is a part of our facilities master plan process, and it's an executive summary of the draft bond priority project budgets that are proposed for each site that take into account the priority items that you see on the right-hand side of the page and that all of our presenters have been talking about tonight. So this is available for you to review in depth on our website. I'm going to walk you through right now my favorite part of the presentation to go through what are some of the proposed projects at each of our sites, and it'll give you a chance to look at our schools in depth along with me. Our elementary schools first. This is a Bury Elementary, and as most community members know, this is our most recent school. It was rebuilt and finally completed in 2018. But one of the things that was not done at the site was to provide for a covered walkway system to connect the classroom buildings to the admin and multipurpose. And so that would be a priority project at this site. We would also propose additional security cameras. We have a good fencing and gate system at the site. And an outdoor learning area on the upper playground and potentially including shade structures. Next slide, please. This is Junipero Serra Elementary School. And as you see, is sort of a theme for our elementaries. The basic proposal here is to modernize the existing older classroom wings, including HVAC, fire alarm and security, doors and hardware, lighting replacements, upgraded windows, finishes, and building systems. And in addition to that, you see number 2 in the administration area of the campus, each of our sites for the elementaries especially, we're proposing to renovate the existing admin areas to provide better workspaces for staff, but also more spaces for the many programs and services that we provide for our students and families on each of the elementaries. In addition, we are proposing to renovate the multipurpose building at this campus and at all of our elementaries to provide new serving, new kitchen facilities that are upgraded and safe, and to rehab our MPRs to bring them up to current codes and current requirements with new finishes, lighting, heating, ventilating. So all of the sites, the number 3 that you'll see on many of the site plans is for our site infrastructure upgrades based on what the priorities are for each of the sites. And you'll see at the top of this slide, not unlike many of our other elementary sites, our asphalt playground areas are deteriorated and need to be rehabbed and made more suitable for better play areas for our kids. Next slide, please. This is Los Cerritos Elementary School on Orange Avenue, and it is one of the older schools in the district. And we're proposing here, as was mentioned previously, to provide a library and exploratorium and replace the remaining portable buildings on campus, so that we would have program parity with this site and the other sites, other elementary sites in the district. We're proposing, again, a full modernization of all of the existing original permanent buildings and a renovation of the multi-purpose building. Number 3 at the front, the multi-purpose building and kitchen serving area needs to be rehabbed, and we would propose that at this site. Also doing upgrading the outdoor learning areas that are adjacent to the classroom, and including better landscaping at this site, and also doing admin renovations to ensure that we have better admin spaces for our teams at the site and our families. Next slide, please. At Martin Elementary, as Mr. Chowdhury mentioned, Building A has not been fully modernized in many, many years, and we are proposing HVAC upgrades in this building, interior finishes, new lighting, new energy efficiency systems, upgrading the windows, new roofing systems. At the MPR, we're proposing HVAC upgrades, upgrading the kitchen and serving area and rehabbing the interior to make it function better for our students and staff, and also renovating the admin building. We need to create more working space for our students and families and the support services that we provide to them. And at Martin, and you can see it really based on even just the condition, you can see from this Google Earth photo, the playground is severely deteriorated and the asphalt needs to be upgraded, and we need to provide better game signage and a more enticing environment for our kids so that they can have a healthy play yard. Next slide, please. This is Monteverde, similar in floor plan to many of our other campuses. The basic work at Monteverde is to modernize the existing permanent classroom wings, and also in that wing, upgrade the administration area and our program support services to provide larger and better spaces, better conference areas, better work areas for our staff and our teachers, and to serve our families and community. This is one of the sites, as Mr. Chowdhury mentioned, where we need to look at a fencing and gates proposal because it's wide open on one side of the site. How do we do that in a good way so it's not totally closed off, but still maintaining good site security, single point of access to the campus? We also need to upgrade the serving and kitchen area in the multipurpose building, and to rehab the multipurpose building and the stage area to provide new lighting, better finishes on the interior. And also, again, our outdoor learning areas and our playground areas on the upper level of the site. And we do have to deal with some site drainage issues continuously on this site. So an important element at Monteverde. Ponderosa Elementary, again, a similar floor plan to many of our elementary schools, and our similar proposal for this site, which is a basic comprehensive modernization of the existing permanent classroom wings and an administration area renovation to support students and families. And also, again, the multipurpose building, the kitchen area, and the serving. And at this site and many others, depending on the available space, potentially a shade structure that can allow for outdoor eating for our students. Also, site security. We need to do a better job of the fencing and gates at this site. We have our playground rehabilitation, our outdoor learning area, and this site, like many of our others, we need to rehab the field area to make it playable and usable, not just for our students, but for our community. So irrigation, better sod, and rehabbing of the field area. Next slide. This is Skyline Elementary, so very similar. As you can see, modernizing the existing permanent classroom wings, upgrading and renovating the administration area, and upgrading and renovating the multipurpose building and the kitchen serving area. And you can see the blacktop is in need of upgrade. And again, the field at this site is clearly needs to be rehabilitated and better irrigation installed. And we would propose to remove the remaining portables. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Spruce Elementary has a core of very old permanent buildings that need significant modernization and rehabilitation. You see the 2 3-story classroom wing at the center, and you can see the cafeteria and multipurpose building that needs serving area and renovation of the existing space. The blacktop areas and outdoor learning areas need renovation, and the spruce gymnasium at the bottom needs to be rehabilitated, including new HVAC systems. And we're also looking at doing a new transitional kindergarten at this site and at many other sites as we begin to open TK as a learning option for our families. Also, site security is important at this site. It's an open site in many ways, and so we need to find a way to provide a better fencing and gate system that we can ensure safe access. Next slide, please. Sunshine Gardens was mentioned earlier as a site that did not receive upgrades under Measure J. So we would propose in the basic renovations at this site to provide a new exploratorium and library buildings for the campus. And we would also be looking at renovating all of the existing permanent classroom wings, adding a TK facility where you see 1C at the end of the wing down there, and renovating and upgrading our serving area and the multipurpose room to better serve our kids and to bring our facilities up to health code standards. You can see that the asphalt is severely deteriorated at this site, and we need to deal with the asphalt and site drainage. Sunshine is unique in our campus is for elementaries in that it has 2 large playing fields up on the upper level that are in a very deteriorated condition and need to be fully rehabbed to be made playable, but they also need handicapped access ramps, accessibility for the sites because they're at a level above the main campus. And so that would be a priority at Sunshine Gardens. Next slide. Let's take a look at the middle schools now. Alta Loma Middle School is proposed here at this site. So one of the issues at this campus is it's a middle school without a gymnasium. And so we want to provide comparable facilities for all of our middle school students. And so we're proposing to build a middle school gym adjacent to the existing Walker building, to rehab the existing Walker building that's next to it, and to also rehab all of the existing permanent classroom spaces on campus. So anything you see with a 2 on it and in buff. One of the things that you see as 1E, a priority at this site, is campus landscaping, because we have a center, essentially just blacktop area between the wings that really needs to have a better look and feel on the site. And the lower blacktop area needs renovation. We need to continue our work renovating our site drainage and our site utilities at this campus. We're proposing an outdoor learning amphitheater at a middle school level. And again, we have 2 field areas, including a baseball field that you can see on the left side on the upper area that's very deteriorated. It's virtually unplayable. And we would propose to renovate the baseball field and to do upgrades needed for the soccer field that's also adjacent to that on the upper level. Next slide, please. Parkway Heights was partially covered in the Measure J bond, but there was limited renovations to the existing permanent buildings in the center spine. So those are proposed to be renovated as part of this project, this program. And you can see all the buildings in buff through the center of the campus would be modernized. Again, Parkway Heights has no gymnasium currently for middle school students. And so we would propose to add a gymnasium on the lower playground level and to upgrade the current gravel area that's sort of adjacent to that where Mr. Siam is putting the cursor, and to upgrade the playground so we have a much better middle school athletic and sports and PE facilities for our middle school students. We would also propose to renovate the admin building and create a better work environment, which is very cramped now for our support staff. Renovations to the library and to the cafeteria and kitchen for code upgrades, and to continue to upgrade our site utilities at this site and so we can have a much better performance when we have events like the flooding that we've had recently. Next slide, please. This is Westboro Middle School. Westboro has a gymnasium and a multi-purpose building, cafeteria area. And so those would be renovated as in the number 3 that's in the center. But the main work at the campus is modernization of the existing permanent wings that you see in Buff and 2 all around the unique site plan that we have at this campus. We would propose to remove the last portable remaining on the site and to put in an outdoor learning area, an amphitheater type area for our middle school level students. One of the unique things about this site, and I guess it's not that unique, but we have a large area of asphalt that is quite deteriorated, and it's not used in many areas because it's just in really bad shape. So we would propose to renovate the student play areas, including renovating the parking and drop off that now is backing up onto Westboro. And so we want to create a better queuing to provide safety and security for families when they're bringing their students and dropping off or parking on the site. And I think the field that you see on the right-hand side is a really good example. You can just see the condition of it based on this Google Earth map. It used to be a running track and playing field, but it's been very heavily deteriorated over time and it's not playable now. So we would propose to put in a large new soccer field and running track for middle school sports and PE, and to upgrade the accessibility to this level because we need to put in ramps and access to the lower level to make it a usable area for our students and our family and for our communities. It's adjacent to the city's Westboro Park below. And this is all part of our wanting to be a strong partner with the city and the community and having those kind of spaces available. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at our high schools. Baden High is our continuation high school, and it also houses our adult education facility. The older buildings, the existing permanent buildings on campus are quite old, are in significant need of modernization. And so the basic scope of work on this site is to modernize all those existing facilities. We would replace the existing portables with new modular buildings on the playground area, do an outdoor learning area, do upgrades to the hard courts for better use by our students and better parking spaces as needed for our adult ed and continuation school families. So that's Baden High. Next slide, please. At El Camino High, we have three signature projects that are coupled with seismic safety upgrades that we need to do on the theater building, which is, you see with 1C on it there. And so we would couple the seismic upgrade with a basic renovation, modernization of the facility to bring it up to current standards to better serve our visual performing arts students and better stagecraft, more current systems and electronics and lighting and sound. So that's the proposal for the theater area. And at the gymnasium, we also need to do seismic safety upgrades on the gymnasium and locker buildings, and we would propose to modernize those at the same time. And also the same at the kitchen and cafeteria. We have the district's cafeteria on this site 1B3, and we would upgrade the central kitchen, but also increase the serving area and the capacity of the serving area to move students through and to create a more welcoming environment for students in the cafeteria. Next slide, please. And at South San Francisco High, the gymnasium that Mr. Chaudhry showed you a picture of is far beyond its useful life. The two gyms and especially the locker room and the weight room facilities are severely deteriorated and they need to be replaced. Our proposal is to rebuild that entire complex at the center of the campus to better serve the needs of our student physical education, athletics, have new fitness areas for students, and really meet contemporary needs for PE and athletics on campus. And at the bottom, the S wing, as it's called now, is in a pretty bad shape and really needs to be demolished also. And we would propose to rebuild that as a CTE STEM building, a new building fitting into our campus. And we do propose at this site also to renovate the multi-purpose building, cafeteria, and theater building. That's the one that you see with 3 there. And to modernize and upgrade our administration area as we move forward. We have ongoing site infrastructure needs at this campus, which we need to continue to address, which we have been addressing over since the last bond measure, and we'll continue to do that. But we have a lot of work to do at South San Francisco High School to really bring it up to 21st century learning standards. Next slide, please. So I'm going to take you through some of our support facilities. The first one is our Children's Center, preschool and daycare after school care program that's on the Spruce campus. And so this consists of portable buildings. We'd love to just replace them all with permanent structures, but we don't believe we can do it with the resources that might be available. So we would propose a major rehabilitation of the portables with new roofs, new finishes on the interiors, new HVAC systems, and upgrading the outdoor areas and an outdoor learning area, better asphalt area, and rehabbing the offices that all of our service providers work in at that campus. Next slide, please. Our district office complex on B Street provides an incredible amount of support for all of the families and the community members in our district. The original district office that you see in 2, the Buff building, outgrew itself many years ago, and the district added portable buildings over time all around that you see adjacent to the one. And the proposal here is that we would demolish all these aging portables that are in pretty bad shape and don't serve the needs of the staff members that we have, and they don't serve the needs of our community. And we would propose to demolish them and build a new 2-story modular building in that existing footprint. And we would also do limited renovations to the existing district office building to bring it a little bit more up to snuff as we go forward. Next slide. And as Mr. O mentioned, workforce housing is a priority for our board, and we have a site at Fox Ridge that the board has looked at. This is one concept option, not the concept or the design, but it shows how we could fit a nice workforce housing complex with a mix of different units to serve different types of needs, and also including a childcare center, playgrounds, landscaping, parking areas, and just really be a great asset to our community, and a way that we can ensure that our teachers and our staff members at the district can afford to live in the area that they work. Next slide, please. We also have a site at Hillside Elementary. We closed site that is partially leased. The district uses the wing that's shown there in purple at the bottom. And we would propose to modernize that wing, fully modernize it, modernize the portables that house our program offices, upgrade the playgrounds that we use, and also redo the entrance, parking, and drop-off to create a safer, simpler, more smooth approach for students and families to get onto our campus. Next slide, please. And this is Sierra Vista. So this is a unique facility for the district. It's it's a closed site, closed elementary, partially leased out, but also used by the district for professional development. Our proposed work at this site is a very limited budget, would essentially be to preserve our asset. What do we need to do to ensure that we have fire and life safety that we have buildings that don't leak, that we have spaces that we can continue to use. So a very limited budget, basically preservation of our asset for the use of the facility. Next slide. That may be the end, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Moore on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Savage. So I think I would be remiss, I think we would be remiss if we didn't take the time and the opportunity to acknowledge that there were challenges of the previous bond. We know, despite the best of intentions, things happened. And I was not the superintendent at the time, but when I became the superintendent, we engaged in a very deep analysis of our bond program. Once the board and I learned of some of the unfortunate ways and various things that and the ways in which they were managed, we took immediate action and we elected to end the relationship with our then contractor. We hired a new bond consultant and we were able to finish Bury, and you'll see momentarily that we were able to quickly get back on track and have a successful approach and implementation, which you'll see again. So with the bond, we're asking our community to please just keep in mind that we have all new people. We have a new board of trustees. We have a new leadership team, which also includes a new and experienced facilities director. The board, the administration, and I are committed to engaging in this work with transparency and with increased accountability. We are a governance team and a group of staff members who really acknowledge the past challenges. We've learned from past mistakes, and we will certainly be mindful as we move forward in ways that are communicative and transparent, and of course, with oversight that because of the protocols and the processes and accountability measures that we now have in place, so to engage in a very smooth process. So I just want to make sure I take an opportunity to acknowledge what happened previously and let our community know that there is a commitment from our team to move forward in better, more transparent, more communicative and accountable ways. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. And I just wanted to take a second to echo some of Dr. Moore's remarks and remind everyone that since 2016, we have successfully completed the remaining major projects that we undertook on time and within budget using our remaining Measure J bond funds. We finished the Bury Elementary School and the fields at that site. We also finished Parkway Heights and created a wonderful new entrance and courtyard area at the school. We modernized Martin Elementary School classrooms and built 4 classrooms to replace aging portables. We built the new South San Francisco High School baseball and softball fields. And we also built the El Camino High artificial turf softball field that you see in the photo to the right. So I think this is a way of saying that we have a team in place that has new protocols, new procedures, that we can ensure that we get good contractors, that we have the contractors that are held accountable for delivering quality projects. And we can keep them on schedule, and we can keep them on budget, and we can complete the work in a way that will make our students and our staff and our families and our community proud. Thank you.
So we know that we have covered a lot of information. There may be questions that you have once you settle and you start thinking about it, and we want to make sure that we give you that opportunity. On this slide, you'll see that we have a lot of information. We've shared a lot today. If you have any additional questions that you are wondering about, please feel free to visit this page. It has a lot of really great information about our bond program. It is also the page that has our frequently asked questions, and we put that in the chat for you to have access to. Additionally, if we go to the next slide, we know that you may not have any questions in this moment, but you might. And so as things come up, and we'll put this in the chat also, can you please feel comfortable and free to email us at this address, facilitiesbondinfo@ssfusd.org, and we will do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. And when I say that, we are taking all of the questions. We will put it on our frequently asked questions page, and it will be placed on the district website on our bond improvement page. And so with that, I just want to thank our community. It is Friday evening of Labor Day weekend, and those of you showed up, and that really means a lot, especially on a Friday evening. So with that, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We thank you so much for just building time in your Friday afternoon to spend with us to learn about the facility needs across South San Francisco Unified. I hope each of you have a wonderful, restful weekend. Thank you. Bye, everyone.